picture a millionaire, you're probably imagining the wrong person. In the 1990s, researchers Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent years interviewing America's wealthy. They expected to find people living in penthouses, driving Ferraris, and wearing Rolex watches. What they found instead was remarkable, and almost nobody saw it coming. Most of America's millionaires live in modest houses, drive used cars, shop at discount stores, and are almost completely invisible to their neighbors. And the people who look wealthy? Most of them are broke. What Stanley uncovered is one of the most important financial studies ever conducted, and it's hiding in plain sight, right next to you. The millionaire next door is built on data, not motivation. Stanley and Danko surveyed thousands of high-net-worth Americans over 2 decades, and what they found dismantled nearly every assumption people make about wealth. This book is for anyone who has ever confused the appearance of wealth with actual wealth, which, if we're being honest, is most of us. Understanding the difference is the first step to actually building the real thing. Here are the 6 defining traits of the quietly wealthy. Stanley opens with a deceptively simple equation. Wealth is not income. Wealth is not possessions. Wealth is the gap between what you earn and what you spend, accumulated over time. Most Americans, Stanley found, have almost no gap at all. They earn well and spend accordingly, consuming nearly every dollar that comes in. This isn't just a problem for low earners. Plenty of 6-figure households have zero net worth. Their income is impressive. Their wealth is non-existent. The millionaires in Stanley's study shared one defining financial behavior. They consistently spent far less than they earned. Not dramatically less, not suffering level less, just less. And they did it for years, sometimes decades, until the gap between their income and their spending quietly became a fortune. Stanley profiled a plumber from the Midwest who had accumulated $2.3 million in net worth by his late 50s. His neighbors assumed he was working class. He drove a 10-year-old truck, took modest vacations, and maxed out his retirement accounts every year for 30 years. No one noticed. That was the point. Stanley introduced a framework that remains one of the most useful in all of personal finance, the PAW and UAW test, prodigious accumulators of wealth versus underaccumulators of wealth. The formula is simple. Multiply your age by your household income, divide by 10. That's your expected net worth. If you're significantly above that number, you're a POW. Below it, you're a UAW, accumulating far less than your income should allow. UAWs aren't necessarily lazy or irresponsible. They're often high earners who've simply fallen into the trap of lifestyle inflation, always spending up to the edge of their income, always looking wealthy, never actually being wealthy. A 45-year-old physician earning $350,000 a year should have a net worth of roughly $1,575 million using Stanley's formula. Many physicians, burdened by student loans, large homes, expensive cars, and status expectations from their profession, fall well short of this benchmark. High income, low accumulation. The trap is real. The word frugal has been ruined by popular culture. People associate it with deprivation, coupons, and never enjoying life. Stanley's data tells a completely different story. The wealthy in his study weren't unhappy. They weren't depriving themselves of things that mattered. They were ruthlessly unimpressed by things that didn't matter. Status symbols, brand names, luxury goods purchased primarily for the benefit of an audience. They chose financial freedom over the appearance of financial success. What they spent on was different. They invested in quality when it lasted. They invested in experiences with family. They invested in their businesses and their assets, but they didn't buy $80,000 cars to impress people at the country club. That distinction, spending on value, not on performance, is the behavioral root of real wealth. In multiple surveys, Stanley found that a significant portion of America's millionaires purchased their most recent vehicle used, not because they couldn't afford new, but because they understood that a car is a depreciating asset, not a status investment. A dollar saved on a depreciating liability is a dollar available for an appreciating asset. This is one of the most underappreciated insights in the book. Stanley found a direct correlation between where people live and how much wealth they accumulate. Living in high-cost, high-status neighborhoods is a wealth trap. Why? Because your neighborhood dictates your consumption. It determines which school costs feel normal, which cars seem appropriate, which restaurants are regular. Living among wealthy spenders creates invisible pressure to spend at their level, whether or not you're actually building wealth the way they appear to be. The most effective accumulators in Stanley's study often lived in neighborhoods below their income level. They bought modest homes in solid areas and directed the money saved toward investments. Their neighbors underestimated them. Their brokerage accounts didn't care. 2 families earned $200,000 a year. Family A buys a $750,000 home in an upscale suburb. Family B buys a $350,000 home in a modest neighborhood. Over 20 years, assuming similar returns, Family B accumulates dramatically more wealth, not from higher income, but from lower overhead and more capital available for investment. One of the most surprising and sobering findings in Stanley's research involves money given to adult children. He found that wealthy parents who financially support their adult children actually reduce their children's likelihood of accumulating wealth. The mechanism is straightforward. When children receive regular financial support from parents, they adapt to a lifestyle funded by someone else's income. They don't develop the financial discipline, the creative problem-solving, or the drive that comes from relying on yourself. The gift becomes a trap. Stanley coined the term economic outpatient care, ongoing financial support that keeps adult children dependent rather than empowered. The most financially successful adult children in his study received something different from their parents: values, skills, encouragement, and the expectation that they would build their own way. A parent who pays for an adult child's car payment, cell phone, and rent isn't being generous in the long run. They're delaying the financial maturity their child will need to survive when that support disappears. The adult child raised to live on $80,000 income while being subsidized to live like they earn $120,000 faces a painful correction eventually. Stanley's research shows that two variables consistently correlate with wealth accumulation more than income alone: your choice of career stability and your choice of partner. He found that wealth correlates not with the highest-paying professions, but with professions that combine solid income with predictability. Business owners, certain tradespeople, and individuals in stable fields with good margins tended to accumulate more than volatile high earners, like salespeople and commission professionals, despite sometimes earning less on peak years. More significantly, Stanley found that marital financial alignment is one of the strongest predictors of net worth. Couples who share a frugal orientation and common financial goals accumulate dramatically more than couples with differing attitudes toward spending. Financial incompatibility doesn't just cause arguments, it causes wealth destruction. Stanley noted that many of the millionaires in his study had been married once, for a long time, to partners who were equally frugal. Divorce, especially late in life, can reset decades of accumulated wealth overnight. The financial compatibility of a life partner is as important as the financial plan itself. The millionaire next door isn't flashy, isn't loud, isn't doing what you think they're doing. They're living below their means, investing the difference, and building wealth so quietly that you'd never know it unless you looked at the numbers. Thomas Stanley spent 20 years studying them, so you don't have to do it the hard way. If this breakdown opened your eyes, drop a like and subscribe. We cover one book like this every week. And tell me in the comments, does anyone in your life fit this profile? The quiet millionaire you'd never suspect?